Title of this one is called The Consequences of Being a Fool. And I have my Bible with me. The Bible that I have is a parallel version of the King James and the Amplified version. But I also have on a couple of Proverbs, I have a different version on there because I believe that it's going to come out, it's easier to explain when I read it that way. But thank you for tuning in, and let's go ahead and get started. This one has 28 Proverbs, and I'll start here with verse 1 on chapter 17. Better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than a house full of sacrifices with strife. Better is a dry morsel of food served with quietness and peace, with peace and quiet, than a house full of feasting served with strife and contention. So it's better to have peace at your table when you're sitting there, that you don't have arguments, strife, quarrels. Even though you have something great there, it can be drama. It can be drama. It can be trouble. It can be a lot of things there, and it's just better to have peace of mind, even if you don't have anything to eat. It sits well with you. Verse 2. A wise servant shall have rule over a son that causeth shame, and shall have part of the inheritance among the brethren. A wise servant will rule over the unworthy son, who acts shamefully and brings disgrace to the family. And the worthy servant will share in the inheritance among the brothers. So Solomon gave a lot of advice to a lot of councilmen, kings, and noblemen, princes, and so on. And these were proverbs as well as sitting in one's house. You have a servant that's been brought up from time to time to raise your little one, your little child, to grow up to be a prince, and they're the ones taking the advice from that servant. So that servant is going to have that rule over them to an extent. And then him being raised in his own house, him being brought up, if you bring up a servant in your own house, they're going to be more like family, and they'll also be included to have that portion or so on there. So this seems like one of those matters. Like, you've been kind, to my family. You've brought us up the way that should have been the right way. We don't look at you as a slave or as a servant in that way, but more like family, and when we go and we pass, we want to make sure that you're well taken care of. So these are good things to have and take note of. Verse 3, the fining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tries the hearts. 3, the refining part is for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the hearts. And here it has a reference to Psalms chapter 26 verse 2, Proverbs chapter 27 verse 21, Jeremiah chapter 17 verse 10, and Malachi chapter 3 verse 3. Okay, let's continuing on to verse 4. And the Lord does try the hearts. He knows those who are His. He knows that balance. When you have a false balance or a just balance, the Lord is wanting you to walk well, to walk godly, to walk in accordance to your calling, to do well here on earth, and not to have that evil balance. And He's going to try you and see where you stand in that circumstance. Continuing with verse 4. A wicked doer giveth heed to false lips, and a liar giveth ear to a naughty tongue. An evildoer listens closely to wicked lips, and a liar pays attention to a destructive and malicious tongue. Verse 5. Whoso mocketh the poor reproacheth his Maker, and he that is glad at calamities shall not be unpunished. Verse 5. Whoever mocks the poor taunts his Maker, and he who rejoices at another's disaster will not go unpunished. And here it gives a verse of Job, a reference of Job chapter 31 verse 29, and Proverbs chapter 14 verse 31, and Obed chapter 12. And I like how it says that, he who is glad at calamities shall not go unpunished. Whoso mocketh the poor reproaches his maker. And it references Job. Job was a guy who followed God, and he had pretty much everything that you can think of. And it came to a testing, where it says that the sons of God appeared. There's a certain time when they appear before God Almighty, and the devil came, and he was there. He came and he visited during that time. And God asked him, what brings you here? And he was like, where are you coming from? And he's like, traveling to and fro, back and forth, all throughout the earth. And then God goes and tells Satan, the devil, he says, have you considered my servant Job? Have you looked at him? Look, there's not a man like him in the whole earth. One who lives up to expectation, one who is honorable, who reverences God and is honorable to his family and his friends. And the devil goes and he says, well, look, you put a hedge around, you protect him. He's blessed increasingly. He has all this stuff, but you take it all away from him, and we'll see where he is. We'll see where he stands. Take it away from him, and he'll curse you to your face. And that kind of goes back to that refining part for silver, and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tries the hearts. And God knew Job's heart. He knew where he was. But he's like, very well, let's see what happens, and kind of strips that away. But here is Job in this sentence being poor. He had everything, and then in an instant, he lost his family, he lost his house, he lost his money, and then it got to affect his health. He lost, he started to have all these boils and all these things. And on top of that, his friends are coming, and instead of them giving him, good news or sympathy or something for that nature, they came and pretty much said, you deserve what you got. You must have done something bad. So it kind of going to that, whoso mocketh the poor reproacheth his maker. He who is glad at calamities shall not be unpunished. To me, it reminds me when they reference Job, because Job was almost getting taunted, and a lot of stuff was happening, and he was undeserving of what he had gotten. So there goes verse 5 on that. And that kind of reminds me of a story. I remember being young, out of high school, like 17, 18 years old, driving my car one day out of work, and I saw a police officer changing his tire, like he had a flat tire or something. And I laughed at him, because it's an officer, and just kind of treat me. And I didn't get up but a mile up down the road, and I got into a car accident. Here I am making fun of somebody that's going through whatever time that they're going through, and then something happened in mine, and it was kind of like, well, there you go. You shouldn't have been gloating. I shouldn't have been trying to. Here he was having an issue, and here I am being like a foolish kid, and that to me is like, now look at me, So that kind of falls hand in hand to that kind of same situation. Just something that I recall when I was younger. Okay. Verse 6, children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children are their fathers. In the Amplified it says, grandchildren are the crown of aged men, and the glory of children is their fathers who live godly lives. And then it gives a reference to Psalms chapter 127 verse 3 and 128 verse 3. And isn't that the truth? When you grow up, and you bring your kids up, you want to be able to see that they're doing well in life. That they have a good life, you brought them up to be educated in school, that they're successful, that they have better than you had. That they're making it, and to see that they're having children and just little lives of their own, and you brought up your children, and you saw them grow up in their lives, and now you get to spend time, with their grandchildren, or see them have more. I think that is something worthy to be praised. A crown of old men seeing their children's children, their grandchildren. It's happy to rejoice in what they're going through, to see that. And there are those parents that push that on their kids. So when are you going to get married? When are you going to start having children? When are you going to do this? I guess they kind of want that little bit themselves, getting older, to have that enjoyment and see that in their lives. I'll carry on with verse 7. Excellent speech becometh not of a fool, much less do lying lips a prince. Excellent speech does not benefit a fool who is spiritually blind. Much less do lying lips benefit a prince. So it's kind of giving the opposite there. A fool is foolish. They're not thinking right to go and make right choices. They're foolish. So to see somebody that's foolish having proper tongue, proper etiquette, doing things, that's not like them. And for princes to be lying, it's out of your character, something that you shouldn't be. Verse 8. A gift is a precious stone in the eyes of him that hath it. Whithersoever it turneth, it prospereth. In the Amplified it says, a bribe is like a bright and precious stone in the eyes of the owner. Wherever he turns, he prospers. I had written a note on that one, and it's actually going through the Good News translation, the GNT, and it says, and it kind of makes it easier. Some people think a bribe works like magic. They believe it can do anything. There's some people that are just trying to bribe other people into something that's going to work to their favor, their benefit. But there's also some cross-references of things in the Bible where it says not to do any of that. So you're looking at Exodus chapter 23, verse 8 says, do not accept a bribe, for a bribe blinds those who see and twist the words of the righteous. You start to do corrupt actions because you've been bought off. And there's a verse in Ecclesiastes, and this is also Solomon. Solomon is the preacher. He's the one that wrote Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 7. Surely extortion turns a wise man into a fool, and a bribe corrupts the heart. So don't go after bribes. Keep yourself innocent. Don't corrupt good character or anything of that nature. Continuing, going to verse 9. And verse 9, let me see. He that covereth a transgression seeketh love, but he that repeateth a matter separateth very friends. 9. He who covers and forgives an offense seeks love, but he who repeats or gossips about a matter separates intimate friends. And so I've also taken note on here, and in this one there are actually two other versions that I like on here, and it's the Contemporary English Version, the CEV, and the Good News Translation, the GNT. And in the CEV, the Contemporary English Version, it says, you will keep your friends if you forgive them, but you will lose your friends if you keep talking about what they did wrong. So consider that. And in the Good News Translation, it says, if you want people to like you, forgive them when they wrong you. Remembering wrongs can break up a friendship. So basically, forgive and forget. Quit bringing up old stuff. And is it really forgiveness if you keep bringing it up? Did you really forgive them? Because you keep throwing it back in their face. You keep bringing it up at every instance. Oh, I remember when you did this. Oh, remember this. Did you really forgive that? And that reminds me of the Lord's Prayer. When you pray to the Lord, and they say, what is the Lord's Prayer? Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And I'm going to stop that one right there and think about that. Forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. When you're calling on God to forgive you, He wants you to also forgive other people. And if your way of forgiving them is to bring up old stuff all the time, how do you think God is going to respond to you, when you're seeking forgiveness, of Him, when you're seeking to be into the kingdom and so on? How do you think His response is going to be to you if you didn't forgive somebody of their faults? So really just kind of take that into mind. It's not just forgive, it's let it go. Quit bringing it up. Continuing into verse 10, a reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes of fool. 10. A reprimand goes deeper into one who has understanding and a teachable spirit than 100 lashes into a fool. And in here it quotes Isaiah chapter 32 verse 6. So you're open to hearing someone's matter. If they're gonna say, hey, look, you've been wrong in this fault, if you are wise and understanding and open, you're going to receive that. You're going to repent of it. You're going to turn away. You're not going to keep walking in that light. But if you have the opposite, you have an opposite, a fool, they're going to go about doing it their own way. They don't want to hear it, and it's just stubborn that way. So, like the instance it says, then 100 lashes on a fool. They're just not going to get it through to them. Going on to verse 11, an evil man seeketh only rebellion, therefore a cruel messenger shall be sent against him. 11, a rebellious man seeks only evil, therefore a cruel messenger will be sent against him. 12, let a bear robbed of her whelps meet a man, rather than a fool in his folly. Let a man meet a ferocious bear robbed of her cubs, rather than an angry, narcissistic fool in his folly. And here they give reverence to Hosea, the book of Hosea, chapter 13, verse 8. And I had written another note that I liked on there, and it's the New Living Translation, how that's worded. And it says, it's safer to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than to confront a fool caught in foolishness. So that seems to kind of be maybe an easier explanation on that one there. And bears are, a mama bear losing her cubs, she'll go out, she'll act up, and you don't want to be there. So this is kind of one of those instances. It's better not to be in that situation. Verse 13. Whoso rewardeth evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house. Whoever returns evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. Psalms chapter 109 verse 4 and 5, and Jeremiah chapter 18 verse 20. Verse 14. The beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water. Therefore, leave off contention before it be meddled with. And in the Amplified, I think that's kind of breaks it down a little bit easier to understand. The beginning of strife, when you start an argument, the starting of a fight, it's like letting out water as from a small break in a dam. First it trickles, and then it gushes. Therefore, abandon the quarrel before it breaks out and tempers explode. And that's a really good version there. I think that breaks down. So be careful of your arguments. It can start off small, and then they're bad. People are throwing dinner plates and glasses at each other. It can get to an end where it can get out of hand and violent. So it's better to slow that down. Better not to get into it. Kind of keep those away from you. Verse 15. He that justifieth the wicked, and he that condemneth the just, even they both are abomination to the Lord. 15. He who justifies the wicked, and he who condemns the righteous, are both repulsive to the Lord. And it gives a version of Exodus chapter 23 verse 7, Proverbs chapter 24 verse 24, and Isaiah chapter 5 verse 23. Now, verse 16. Wherefore is there a prince in the hand of a fool? Price. Wherefore is there a price in the hand of a fool to get wisdom, seeing he hath no heart to it? 16. Why is there no money in the hand of a fool to buy wisdom, when he has no common sense or even a heart for it? 17. A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. 17. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. I had also written the New Living Translation on here as well. So the NLT, it says, a friend is always loyal, and a brother is born to help in the time of need. Going on to 18. 18. A man void of understanding striketh hands, and becometh surety in the presence of his friend. A man lacking common sense gives a pledge and becomes a guarantor for the debt of another in the presence of his neighbor. Okay, 19. He loveth transgression that loveth strife, and he that exalteth his gate seeketh destruction. 19. He who loves transgression loves strife, and is quarrelsome. He who proudly raises his gate seeks destruction because of his arrogant pride. And in this, I'm kind of imagining somebody who's starting trouble. Hey, what's up? Somebody who wants to fight. And to me, that's that raising of the gate. Come on over, bring it over here. Then, kind of just that's the attitude that I'm seeing when I look at this. So just kind of rereading that again. It says. He who loves transgression, so somebody who wants problems, who loves strife and is quarrelsome, always causing problems, who proudly raises his gate, this person is quick to anger, so on. He seeks destruction because of his arrogant pride. He got himself into that trouble. He got himself into that mess, where you could turn the other cheek, where you could walk away, where you could let it not happen. You're provoking something in that situation. Verse 20. Okay. He that hath a froward heart findeth no good, and he that hath a perverse tongue falleth into mischief. He who has a crooked mind finds no good, and he who is perverted in his language falls into mischief. And they quote James chapter 3 verse 8. James is in the New Testament there. James chapter 3 verse 8. So I had also wrote on here the contemporary English version, and it basically says, dishonesty does you no good, and telling lies will get you in trouble. So he that hath a froward heart hath no good, findeth no good, and he that hath a perverse tongue falls into mischief. Going on to verse 21. 21. He that begetteth a fool doeth it to his sorrow, and the father of a fool hath no joy. 21. He who becomes the parent of a fool, who is spiritually blind, does so to his sorrow, and the father of a fool, who is spiritually blind, has no joy. And I also wrote on here on the NLT, the New Living Translation. It says, "It's painful to be the parent of a fool. There is no joy for the parent of a godless fool." You know, when you see your child is into problems, into stirring up problems, that they just don't listen, no matter what advice you give them, no matter how much you try to help them, no matter what they're doing, you can see the path that they're going to, and you want to help and you want to be able to pull them out of that as a parent, but they just keep doing that over and over to themselves, and it's heartbreaking to the parents in that matter. And I'll continue to verse 22. Verse 22, "A merry heart doeth good like medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones." 22, "A happy heart is good medicine, and a joyful mind causes healing, but a broken spirit dries up the bones." Proverbs chapter 12 verse 25, chapter 15 verse 13, and Proverbs chapter 15. So it just goes to say, just stay positive, be happy, try to get yourself up. Don't be stuck in that mindset, where you can just be down and you can be depressed, and then you don't want to get up, you don't want to do anything, and then you see the joy that everybody else is having, and you shut yourself down, and then deep depression can get to a point to where it becomes suicidal or certain things. So it's good to have that good mindset, just to get out of it. Today is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it, and carry yourself in that manner. But I'll continue here with verse 23. Verse 23. "A wicked man taketh a gift out of the bosom to pervert the ways of judgment." And it says, "A wicked man receives a bribe from the hidden pocket to pervert the way of justice." And that one seems a lot like, don't take bribes, like what we had referred to earlier. It corrupts the heart. "Surely extortion turns a wise man into a fool, and a bribe corrupts the heart. Do not accept a bribe, for a bribe blinds those who see and twists the words of the righteous." So going on, that's kind of falling into that bribery thing there. It perverts justice, the ways of justice. Verse 24, "Wisdom is before him that hath understanding, but the eyes of a fool are in the ends of the earth." 24, "Skillful and godly wisdom is in the presence of a person of understanding, and he recognizes it. But the eyes of the thick-headed fool are on the ends of the earth." So I kind of like that. It goes on to say that wisdom is before him that hath understanding, but the eyes of the fools are in the ends of the earth. You're going to, if you're using the principles of wisdom to be your guide, if you're following that path, you're going to make good judgment calls. And if ever a scenario comes up before you, you're going to be keen and know the right moves to make, because you're always looking to make better choices and not fall into to a downward spiral or a wrong path. But a fool is the opposite. He finds it the hard way. He deals with it because he's not looking ahead in that situation. But wisdom is before him that hath understanding. Verse 25, "A foolish son is a grief to his father, and bitterness to her that bare him." 25, A foolish son is as grief and anguish to his father, and bitterness to her who gave birth to him. And basically, this is summarizing basically the same thing that verse 21 said. He that begetteth the fool doeth it to his sorrow, and the father of the fool has no joy. To me, it's, the father, the mother, it's it eats at them to see this in their children. Verse 26. Also to punish the just is not good, nor to strike princes for equity. 26, it says, it is also not good to fine the righteous, nor to strike the noble for their uprightness. So, don't treat those who did right wrong. They did a commendable thing. You shouldn't dishonor that, or they shouldn't be punished for that. Verse 27. He that hath knowledge spareth his words, and a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. He who has knowledge restrains and is careful with his words, and a man of understanding and wisdom has a cool spirit, self-controlled, and even temper. And here they give a reference to the book of James, chapter 1, verse 19. And now for our final verse, verse 28. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise, and he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. 28. Even a callous, arrogant fool, when he keeps silent, is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is regarded as sensible, prudent, discreet, and a man of understanding. So, even if you are out making poor choices, even if you are foolish, there is a moment where it's better for you not to say anything, and sometimes you just better not, because you're going to make the situation worse, to keep your mouth closed. And in those instances, it says, even in that moment, you're considered as one who is wise because you're doing a wise action. I remember seeing a movie, and this guy's getting bullied in school, and he goes to use the restroom, and a guy comes up against him, and he's pushing him, and he's calling him names, and he says, "What, you got something to say?" And another guy walks in the restroom, and he's trying to calm the situation. He's trying to hey man, he's cool, man, don't bother with him, there's nothing wrong with him, man, why are you always messing with this guy, but in that moment he's like, "What, you got something to tell me? You got something to say?" And the guy that's trying to help him, he kind of looks over at him, and he's like, "Don't say anything." And he didn't say anything. And that was a good move on his part, because it didn't matter in that moment. If he said something good, "Hey man, I'm sorry." If you said something bad, something to offend the guy, he was offended anyways. He just wanted you to open your mouth. And in that moment, if he would have said anything, it would have just caused him more damage. Not to say that guy was foolish or anything in that story, but that was a wise move to make in that situation. So it just kind of goes to show, even a fool, when he holds his peace, is counted wise, and he that shuts his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. And sometimes that is the situation that we have there. And that will conclude chapter 17, title being The Consequences of Being a Fool. I thank you for tuning in, and I really thank you for allowing me to take part out of your day. God has put it in my heart to go through the Proverbs for the month of January and finish them out. And here I am on 17 already, by the grace of God, getting through these Proverbs, and I'm glad that I'm able to share them with you. And I thank you for taking your time out to hear them. I pray that your faith goes stronger in the Lord. I pray that outside of hearing this, that you're open to reading your Bible, that you're open to finding a Bible, that you're open to finding a good biblical church, and walking in godly counsel in the ways of the Lord. I pray that for you, and if you're one who may have slipped away from Christ, and kind of gone, kind of the ways of the world when we backslide, I pray that you can see these Proverbs and know the betterment that God wills for you. You know, He wants and desires for us to have so much more and to be so much better in this world, and doesn't want for all of that bondage to be added on to us. He doesn't want us to be stuck in sin and inequities. I pray that you can recognize that, you know, and that you'll come back to God, you know, that you'll come back to the Lord and you'll actually repent. Lord, I'm sorry that I've been this way. You know, I can see all the ways that I've acted a fool. Here I am growing and now I'm becoming more mature. You know, please bring me out of that mess. You know, forgive me. I don't want to be that person anymore. You know, just call upon the name of the Lord. His arm is still out there. You know, it's still out there reaching for you. And I pray that you take His hand. You know, I pray that you take His hand and that you walk with the Lord. You know, you put everything else, all that foolishness, all that stuff you've been going through, you put it aside and you stand in good standing with God. God bless you in Jesus' name. I really pray that these Proverbs are helping you throughout your day. You have a blessed day. God bless you. And goodbye.